Certain individuals initially perceived it as a politically motivated maneuver during election season, but it now appears that Ottawa is resolute in moving beyond mere rhetoric. Through a series of statements, there have been indications of how Canada intends to leverage its significant advantages, particularly in the realms of oil, gas, LNG, electricity, and the automotive industry, as a demonstration of strength against the United States. While the assertion of "we will not back down" is rallying Canadian society, it is simultaneously generating considerable apprehension south of the border. Could this confrontation genuinely precipitate an energy and trade crisis capable of destabilizing the entirety of North America? The energy sector is at the forefront of Ottawa's strategy, with recent official statistics revealing that Canadian crude oil exports to the United States surpassed $70 billion in 2024. This substantial sum constitutes nearly one-fifth of total U.S. oil imports. Furthermore, there exists a notable reliance on natural gas and LNG, with experts highlighting that Canada supplies approximately 9 billion cubic meters of LNG to the U.S. each year, meeting a significant portion of the total consumption in certain states. In a speech delivered on March 27, 2025, Prime Minister Carney declared, "We hold these trump cards because we have a neighbor who imposes unilateral tariffs on us." On the same day, a statement delivered in the Canadian Parliament indicated that the country could seek alternative markets for its energy exports. In essence, Ottawa is boldly asserting its authority to control the flow of energy resources, given the United States' reliance on Canadian supplies. Many analysts believe this could pose a significant challenge for Washington. The electricity trade holds comparable strategic weight, with official data showing that Canada supplied approximately 65 terawatt-hours of electricity to the U.S. in 2024, accounting for 20% of consumption in specific regions. Leveraging its abundant hydroelectric capacity in a cold climate, Canada exports electricity generated in its northern regions at highly competitive prices to the U.S. On March 28, 2025, social media commentary sparked debate questioning whether Canada might pull the plug by restricting electricity exports through retaliatory measures such as higher taxes or limitations. Such actions could drive up electricity costs, particularly in northern provinces and cities with energy-dependent industries. Tensions escalated further that day when an unnamed official from the Prime Minister's office announced, "We are reassessing trade terms across all sectors, including electricity." Could this decision wield enough influence to disrupt production and daily life in the U.S.? This question has dominated discussions in Washington for days. Beyond energy, Canada's integration with the U.S. extends to the automotive sector, where Canadian vehicle and parts exports to the U.S. exceeded $30 billion in 2024. Meanwhile, numerous components from the U.S. are shipped to Canada for final assembly in Canadian factories. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney is advocating for increased tariffs and a restructured automotive supply chain, declaring that agreements of mutual interest are a thing of the past. On March 28, 2025, a sudden policy shift eliminated tax incentives for U.S. electric car companies. Right after, whispers began circulating that additional tariffs might soon target certain manufacturers. Canada's counterstrike in the automotive sector could impact companies like Tesla, according to insights shared across social media. Many experts foresee these measures driving up production costs and, consequently, consumer prices. Ottawa, however, shrugs off the concern, stating, "It's not our issue. It's the problem of those who started the tariff war," effectively shifting responsibility back to Washington. The stakes are equally high in agriculture, where Canada ranks as one of the U.S.'s top partners. Bilateral trade in this sector neared $45 billion in 2024, fueled by a robust exchange of wheat, canola, meat, and dairy products. In a March 27, 2025 parliamentary address, Prime Minister Carney hinted at potential new taxes, warning they shouldn't assume our leverage in agriculture is weak. Official figures released that day underscored this, showing Canada's canola seed exports to the U.S. reached $6 billion. Should this trade flow falter, U.S. domestic market prices could surge dramatically. A halt in Canadian products vital to animal feed, particularly for livestock, could strike a severe blow to American producers. In this tit-for-tat trade conflict, Carney's assertion, "we won't always be the ones taking the hit," resonates strongly with Canadians. The U.S. spends hundreds of billions annually on Canadian goods, amplifying the potential fallout. On March 29, 2025, a report in American media highlighted that Canadian oil is one of the largest import items for the United States, followed by automotive and automotive parts. The same report estimated that U.S. imports from Canada surpassed $460 billion in 2024. Beyond raw materials and energy, Canada also supplies high-value manufactured goods, meaning a sudden rupture in this deeply intertwined supply chain could prove disruptive for both nations. In a March 27, 2025 speech, Prime Minister Carney issued a veiled warning to Washington, stating, "This interdependence is too complex a structure to be tested in unilateral tariffs." He emphasized the desire for fair trade, a sentiment echoed in an official U.S. statement that day, though no resolution has emerged regarding Canada's retaliatory tariffs. The Trump administration's auto tariffs are just one factor fueling Ottawa's tougher posture, as tensions have simmered for years over steel, aluminum, and various agricultural goods. On March 28, 2025, North American media reported that despite multiple rounds of negotiations, Washington's America First stance has left Ottawa feeling cornered. In response, Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has pivoted toward Europe and Asia to bolster trade diplomacy. During visits to France and the UK on March 27, 2025, discussions focused on forging alternative trade pathways in the energy and automotive sectors. Shortly after, European headlines speculated, "Is Canada stepping out of the U.S. shadow?" When asked about these developments on March 27, 2025, Prime Minister Carney offered a subtle nod, stating, "We are developing our own policy at the moment." One of the most hotly debated topics is the potential halt of electricity exports to the United States. Each year, a substantial share of Canada's hydroelectric and nuclear power generated nationwide crosses the border under trade deals, with some estimates valuing total electricity exports at over $3 billion in 2024. Wielding this energy leverage could drive up prices, particularly in northern U.S. states. Carney heightened tensions that day by declaring, "We will bring oil and electricity into the discussion," prompting a cautious response from U.S. officials. While they avoided direct comments, American energy sector spokespeople cautioned that such a move could spell disaster for both U.S. and Canadian firms. Undeterred, Carney doubled down in a March 28 statement. "We are not saying we are destructive, but we cannot sit on our hands in the face of unfair moves." In the automotive realm, the stakes are just as high. Data from 2024 shows Canada manufactures roughly 1.8 million vehicles annually, over half of which are destined for the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S.-made parts feed into Canadian assembly lines, underscoring the mutual reliance. This tight integration complicates any unilateral upper hand, yet Trump's auto tariffs risk harming U.S. manufacturers too. On March 28, 2025, a social media post warned that Canadian tariffs on parts imports could throw Detroit's factories into chaos. The following day, at a press conference, Carney hinted at further tariff hikes, signaling an unwavering stance. "Automotive companies have long been our most important business partners, but we cannot be the only ones to pay the price of political pressure." This remark triggered slight dips in automotive stock prices and amplified market uncertainty. On the agricultural front, the stakes in bilateral trade are even more critical. Canadian staples like wheat, meat, milk, and dairy products enjoy strong demand in the U.S., with 2024 exports of canola alone projected to hit $5 billion. Should Ottawa respond with tariffs or export curbs in this sector, U.S. supermarket prices could soar. On March 28, 2025, an agriculture lobbyist warned American media, "A lot of our farmers rely on Canadian inputs. Disrupt that, and food inflation could spin out of control." The next morning, March 29th, Carney added fuel to the fire, stating, "No area, including agriculture, comes with guarantees." This declaration underscores Canada's willingness to intensify the conflict without hesitation. These events highlight the immense scope of trade between Canada and the United States, with 2024's two-way trade estimated at over $900 billion, one of the world's largest bilateral trade relationships, not just in North America. Yet, the current crisis exposes the precariousness of this economic foundation. On March 27, 2025, Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed a pivot toward European and Asian markets, noting, "Unilateral tax moves hinder trade, which is exactly why Canada is seeking new opportunities." European media outlets report that France and the UK are crafting tailored agreements with Canada to enhance trade in energy and auto parts. Some analysts speculate that a Canada-Europe joint production line could erode U.S. market share. As of March 30th, 2025, specifics of Canada's so-called April 2nd retaliation sanctions remain murky, though leaks from Ottawa suggest looming tariffs on automotive metals and agriculture. In energy, rather than abruptly halting exports, discussions lean toward redirecting them to non-U.S. markets via fresh agreements. On March 27th, Carney remarked, "We're exploring options across every sector because we no longer have a partner we can rely on." Social media reactions have erupted with users asking, "Will Canada cut us off?" U.S. officials have treaded carefully in their responses, while some commentators lament the Trump administration blundered by provoking Canada this much. Others remain hopeful, anticipating an eventual thaw between the two nations. The public is left speculating about who stands to lose more in this standoff. The U.S. leans heavily on Canada for energy, yet Canada risks alienating its largest customer. The automotive sector's tight integration further complicates any one-sided advantage, and rising agricultural prices could sting consumers on both sides of the border. Border states, meanwhile, are scrambling to safeguard tens of thousands of jobs tied to cross-border commerce. This intricate web points to a post-April 2 retaliation that could jolt the economies and political landscapes of both nations. Now, if you like this video, check out this next video right here.